Dr. James Levine coined the phrase, "Sitting is the new smoking," and he's also the inventor of the treadmill desk. So in 2014, when he went on CBS to promote his latest book, his studio interview was unique.
So you're saying that sitting is as dangerous as smoking, and I read that and I go, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
So excess sitting has been associated with 34 different chronic diseases. Now, 80% of people don't smoke, but all of us sit, and most of us excessively. And so the cumulative impact of all of that chronic disease makes sitting a bigger enemy, if you like, than smoking.
So is sitting really as bad as smoking? We're going to dive into that question today. But before we do, I just have to show you one more clip from that CBS interview, because let's just say there's a good reason you don't normally see TV interviews conducted on treadmills.
Let's see, you said we should do 1 point something.
Correct.
I did 1.5. What are you doing, Missy?
2.5.
I'm
I
going to
knew
kick
you
mine
would go
up.
fast. I knew you would do that.
Charlie, what do you do? I'm now going to take mine
I've
up to
lost
2.5.
mine here. I have no
too.
signal. It doesn't say.
Here you are, 1.9.
I have a question.
Okay.
So,
No, but the absolute...
So I'm going to go to, let's go to 3.
No.
Why not?
Too late, Doctor. Too late. We're going to 3.
No.
Health is Wealth is supported by Meridian Health Services and LifeStream Services. In 1948, readers of the Ladies' Home Journal saw this advertisement: "More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette." We've come a long way since then. The first Surgeon General's report on the dangers of smoking came out in 1964, and it dominated newspaper headlines and TV newscasts. The very next year, Congress passed the first legislation requiring health warnings on cigarette packages and banning cigarette ads on broadcast TV. Not coincidentally, the percentage of American adults who smoke cigarettes has fallen steadily since, from 43% in 1965 to 12% in 2022. And yet today, 1 out of every 5 deaths in the United States is still caused by cigarette smoking and secondhand smoke exposure. And it's the leading preventable cause of disease, death, and disability. We have more scientific evidence than ever that smoking harms nearly every organ of the body. I say all this to emphasize just how bold it is for James Levine to compare the dangers of sitting and smoking. Are we going to someday look back at office chairs the same way we think of ashtrays on restaurant tables? Should a chair at IKEA come with a warning label like a pack of cigarettes does? I asked a couple professors about this comparison, and for the record, we were not walking on treadmills while we talked. Daniel Lieberman has traveled the world studying hunter-gatherer people groups who live today like our ancestors lived long ago.
It is true that if you spend all your day sitting, this is not a good thing. You don't need a medical doctor or a professor or whatever to tell you that. I think pretty much everybody knows that. But people may be surprised to find out that hunter-gatherers, people who don't even own chairs, right, don't have desk jobs, spend as much time sitting as your average American, about almost 10 hours a day, right? But the difference is that when they're not sitting, they're very active, right? They're about 10 times more active than your average American.
Even if you are physically active, even if you are healthy in all other aspects of your life, you're eating well, you're not smoking, you are not obese, your blood glucose levels are normal, but you spend 2, 4, 6 hours a day prolonged sitting, just that sitting alone is enough to create some negative responses in the body that can, in fact, lead to some potential complications. If the only ugly thing that you have going on in your life is the smoking, that's enough to create problems. Sitting is kind of the same.
So, first of all, everyone agrees that moving is healthier than sitting. Being active is better than being inactive. Duh. But the less obvious part is, what is that inactivity doing in my body that's so harmful? In Daniel Lieberman's book, Exercised, he says one recently discovered key is inflammation. When your body encounters an invader like the flu virus, it quickly sets off a cascade of inflammation throughout your body. The purpose of the inflammation is to fight the virus, but the result is you feel awful. Scientists have now discovered that the proteins that regulate inflammation also cause low-grade, long-lasting inflammation. Lieberman says this chronic inflammation is like having a never-ending cold, so mild you never even notice it. But growing evidence shows this inflammation quietly damages our arteries, muscles, and other organs. So what causes chronic inflammation? One of the biggest causes is, you guessed it, physical inactivity. By the way, smoking is also high on the list.
Muscle contractions promote blood movement. And when you sit and don't have those muscle contractions happening, you don't get the benefit of the muscles mechanically squeezing on your blood vessels to help move blood and circulate blood better. So prolonged sitting leads to static blood flow, and that alone can induce some changes where we see hormones being released that otherwise wouldn't need to be, increased stress hormones in particular. Also, static blood flow tends to promote some changes in the blood that favor things like heart attack and stroke.
Okay, so notice that prolonged sitting by itself can provoke chronic inflammation, affect your blood flow, and release stress hormones in your body. But then on top of that, some of those times we spend in prolonged sitting can be among the most stressful parts of our day, like commuting to work or answering a backlog of emails. So you've got the physical stress of sitting plus the mental stress. The scientific term for this is a double whammy.
In my laboratory, we study things that contribute to blood clotting, and blood clots are what will contribute to most heart attacks and strokes. And what we've observed is that, first of all, stressful situations provoke changes in the blood that favor heart attacks and strokes. Sitting for a prolonged period of time also provokes changes in the blood that favors heart attacks and strokes. And so when you combine those two things, you now have two things contributing to a scenario where the blood is changing in a way that makes you more likely to create a blood clot that could potentially create heart attack or stroke.
The science seems clear that sitting for a long stretch is bad for us. Is it as bad as smoking? That's less clear. But honestly, I'm not sure that matters a whole lot. We're not choosing between sitting and smoking like they're two options on a restaurant menu. We know smoking is bad for us, and now we also know sitting is not good. But the next question is, what can we do about it? I've literally never touched a cigarette in my life, but I'm sitting in a chair right now. There's good news. You don't have to throw away all the chairs in your life. An analysis of 5,000 Americans found that people who broke up their sitting time with frequent short breaks decreased their inflammation by 25%, even though they sat for the same number of hours as the control group. Remember how Daniel Lieberman said hunter-gatherers sit for 10 hours a day? He also told me research studies have shown the average hunter-gatherer stands up about every 10 or 15 minutes.
And that's like turning your car engine on. It's like it turns on all kinds of cells in your body. It uses up glucose, uses up blood, fats, etc. They don't sit in chairs, which involve absolutely no muscular activity. They squat, so they're using muscles in their legs and their back. So the way in which we sit has changed. So it's not that sitting itself is such a weird, bad, strange thing. It's the fact that we sit for very long periods at a time in uninterrupted bouts.
We recently completed a study in which we had people sit at a desk for 2 hours, just without stopping and doing some work on a computer. And then we repeated that same trial, but every 30 minutes we got up and walked on a treadmill for less than 5 minutes. And it was a low speed, there was no sweating or intense workout, it was just getting up and moving a little bit. And that was enough to completely undo the negative consequences that we found during the extended sitting trial. So taking exercise breaks, nowadays there's a movement of promoting what they commonly call exercise snacks, where you simply just get up and move around for a few minutes. About every 30 minutes to break up that prolonged sitting bout is adequate to minimize some of those health consequences.
There's a phenomenon in the modern office workplace where you're sitting in a long meeting and suddenly a bunch of people in the room will stand up all at once. It's because they all own an Apple Watch, and right at 10 minutes till the hour, they all got the same little nudge from their Apple Watch reminding them to stand up. In fact, one of the 3 goals on the Apple Watch is all about standing up, and you achieve that goal if the sensors in the watch detect you standing up and moving around for at least 1 minute during 12 different hours of the day. It's not perfect, For one thing, standing up is good, but it's better to actually spend a few minutes moving around and getting one of those exercise snacks. Plus, sometimes I get a little celebratory notification that I've just achieved my daily stand goal while I'm sitting on my butt. But overall, I felt like having that stand reminder has been helpful for me. Now, it doesn't have to be an Apple Watch or even something techie. I've experimented with a simple little kitchen timer. But when I'm sitting at my desk, it's very easy for me to lose track of time and go a few hours without standing up.
If you have a sedentary occupation, as I do, it is important for two things to happen in your life. One, you should do your very best to meet the physical activity recommendations of 150 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous physical activity. That's point number one, be regularly physically active. Point number two, break up those bouts of sitting with exercise snacks. Every 30 minutes or so, get up and move around to try to help minimize the negative effects of that prolonged bout of sitting.
The average American worker spent 45% of the workday sitting last year. But that ranges from software developers who sit 97% of their day to waiters and waitresses who sit less than 2% of their day. So maybe your challenge is those hours sitting at your desk, or maybe it's after work when you're playing video games or scrolling TikTok. The important thing is to build in reminders to help you notice so you can stand up and get moving for a few minutes. Hey, speaking of which, I've been sitting down for a little while now, and chances are you have too. Let's both stand up and get an exercise snack. What's your favorite exercise snack? Let us know in the comments. And make sure to like and subscribe because we've got more episodes of Health is Wealth coming. If you've ever wondered why so many people are crazy about pickleball, join me next week and we'll find out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.